everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for having me today. Excited to talk to you a little bit about innovation at Duolingo, so bringing the consumer app perspective into the conversation, and how AI has changed how we think about innovation. This is my background. You already got some background from Dave, which is great. Definitely got my start here at CMU. Helped out with the DARPA Grand Challenge, those earliest versions of autonomous vehicles. Went to Google, worked on earliest versions of image search and other projects like Google Art Project, which is like indoor street view kind of things. Alpha Lab incubated Covey, a startup, and then went from there to Duolingo. At Duolingo, I lead engineering for our new business. So, flashback in time for Duolingo. Maybe you remember 2011 Duo the Owl on the left there. The owl has changed a lot. So has the company. We have matured a lot over this period of time. I joined around 7 years ago. And then some numbers. You know, we have about 30 million DAUs, 88 million MAUs. We've seen great growth. Top 10 apps by revenue. We're, I think, probably just most proud about the way we've expanded the language learning market, where we really feel like we've pioneered like everyday learning, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And our early growth, it's worth pointing out, is all just based on product innovation, just total like focus on building a great product. Marketing is fairly new for us, although we do have a great marketing team now. There's the No Buts duo that's in there. So if you haven't seen this campaign, the Super Bowl campaign, check it out, but only if you're not easily offended. So what I want to share with you is just how product development works at Duolingo, so you can see like what has fueled our growth, and then also how AI has influenced that process. And then I'll share a little bit about what's next for us. So this is through another lens. Our DAUs, this is millions of DAUs by quarter in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, we've more than 5x'd our DAU volume. Again, total focus on the product development process here. So it's actually quite simple. There's nobody 5 years ago who could have told you what our product would have looked like today. Nobody sat down and wrote a 5-year plan that everybody executed on. We did have big goals, and we were very motivated by them, but nobody claimed to know the perfect path to get to those goals. Instead, we looked for inspiration, set a goal, looked for inspiration, and then lots of just running experiments. At any given time, we have hundreds of experiments that are running. If you open up the Duolingo app, who knows what combination of experiments you are in. There's all kinds of things being tried at any time. And, and actually jumping back here, so the example I have on this slide is making learning fun. So we had a hypothesis, like the hardest part of language learning is staying motivated. We want to make it fun, find inspiration, who's best in class at fun. This is games. And then got lots of ideas from games, tried them out. Here's some features that came out of it. We at this point now have about 20% of our users have a streak of more than a year. So a streak is like just very simple, like counting the number of days in a row that you've used the product. So 20% have a streak of more than a year. So these kinds of things have been like really influential for us. It's worth pointing out, in the middle here we have push notifications. These over time have gotten edgier and edgier through testing and determining what's impactful. And this was one of the first features that we had at the company that was really AI driven. So this is one of our first uses of AI. So how this has changed. The world is different now. Those are sort of, these features have been around a long time. Now, in the sort of the era of AI that we have now, what looks different? A lot is very similar. So I think when we talk about finding inspiration, I mean, like thinking about even the talks that we've had here today, There's so many more ideas out there. What's possible is so different now. So how we find inspiration is quite different than how it used to be. But the overall process is very, very similar, where we're experimenting all the time, just finding ideas, trying it out, and seeing what works for us. One thing that I will note is very different now is scale. So old process, you have an idea, you try it out in a small set of users in a very small way, because you don't want to invest too much on something until you know it's really going to work. So you start small, run an experiment. If it's a winner, then you're like, okay, how do we now scale this to everybody, or how do we make this more impactful? That it doesn't fly anymore. You can't keep up in product development that way anymore. AI is totally changing how we think about scale. So now we start with scale. So in the earliest versions of creating a new feature, you are thinking about, okay, how will we scale this to everybody? If it's a Gen AI based feature, you're starting with a prompt. The prompt creation is part of the early product development. If it's not an AI-based feature, you still have to think about scale. So scalability is just much more important and significant than it once was. So here we have a few features that we have in the product today that just would not have been possible without the advances that we've seen in AI. All three are actually Gen AI driven. Duo Radio on the left there, this is one example where it's basically you're calling into a radio show. It's to practice language learning listening. It's all these scripts were prompt first creations. On the right, we have role play, which is where you can practice your language just through conversation. We had a version of this years ago we called Chatbot. It was like the pre-AI version of a scripted conversation. It was never successful. Role play is just so much. There's so much more we can do with it now. And then just a little bit about what's next. I think the big focus for us is we're continuing this process in new ways. And what we're really excited about now is just taking what we have done for language. So we started with language learning, and then moving into new subjects. So in November we launched math and music in the product. And we are in these, it was very well received. I have some tweets there. And so, but we have a lot of problems to solve still about how do we teach math well in an engaging way? How do we do the same thing for music? And how do we make sure that all of these things are scalable? And so here's an example of one of the problems that we're solving for math, where we're trying to make math feel more relevant. Asking an adult to do math lessons every day can be pretty hard if you're not in math class. Staying motivated to do math lessons is a little tricky, so we're looking at how to bring real-world context into our math course, and this is based on Gen AI, bring relevant context into the course to help with the motivation to keep up lessons. And for music, an example of something that we're thinking about for music is, how can you basically make music as fun as playing a rhythm game? Again, working on solving that problem of motivation for everyday learning. That's all I got. I have my email address up here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you want to connect.